asked me a couple of things. He said, would you share with us what it takes to be a successful coach? And I said, what exactly are you looking for? And he said, well, tips and tricks or things like that and how you got to be successful. And I said, all right. And he said, like your recipes for success. Well, now he's getting closer to knowing Jane Zilles because I am a baker and I'm all about the recipe. So I'm thinking, okay, with a recipe, when you're making something, sometimes it's that little pinch of salt for those of you who don't bake, who make the difference between a good cake and a bad cake. So sharing those recipes, I'm like, okay, now I understand a little bit more about what I can share. Hopefully that'll help you all. And then the other thing Peter said is, what is your secret sauce? And that just got me thinking about the secret sauce. Who of you remember this little jingle? 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions on a sesame seed bun. That was McDonald's. McDonald's had this jingle, and I knew it. It came right to my head. And I cannot remember my granddaughter's birthday some days, but I can remember 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. So the secret sauce. What is the secret sauce to becoming a successful certified chart coach? So I started with an overview here. It goes right back to Chart's sales cycle management course, number 1 on prospecting. And for those of you who have been through it, they talk about power, and power is an acronym. There are many acronyms going through Chart that just pop out, and sometimes they're great and you understand them, and sometimes you just go on. But power is one of them that I think is very important in becoming and being a successful coach. And that is, P stands for positive and passionate. And I have to tell you, whenever anybody talks to me and I have to start talking about Chart, they're just like, whoa, that's your wow factor, right? Overcoming, O is for overcoming reluctance. Wow is your wow factor. Enthusiasm is the E. And R is for rejecting rejection, which there's always an opportunity to learn from everything. So what is your wow factor is a question you should ask yourself as you're approaching a client. What is the differentiator that's going to set you apart and what you're offering to your client that the next guy is not? So knowing that is critical, and you need to be able to verbalize that very quickly when you're having your conversations. WIFM, W-I-I-F-M, what's in it for me, is another acronym in this very first course. And basically that is used, you need to engage the interest of others. So what's in it for me? Why should I buy Chart? Why should I spend 12 months training my sales team? Why should I work with you? And I think really when it comes down to it, Chart for me is it's my toolbox. Okay. I love to train. And so to get people involved, in order to get Chart, you have to get me, and vice versa. So that's part of my sales process. And also talks about the opening benefit offer, an OBO, opening benefit offer. So it's important for you to clarify to your audience or to who you're selling to, or once the customer buys in and says, okay, we're going to do this. Now you've got a whole group of people that are like, now who is this? What is going on? And it's important for you to clarify right up front, what is your role and what is your purpose as a coach and facilitator? And to that, I give you my personal mission statement for my business, which is I encourage professionals to realize their potential in work and in life by embracing change. It's so funny because I put that thing together about 10 years ago, before I even started with Chart, when I went and got my life coaching certification. But I encourage professionals to realize their potential in work and life by embracing change. And I am so excited to be working with you because your company has invested in you and brought me on board to support you in this journey that we're going to be on together for the next 12 months. So that's my opening. I just wanted to share that part with you. So let's talk about some coaching tips and tricks. Number 1, Sounds very easy, right? But know the material. How can you sell something that you haven't even gone through? And let me tell you, it takes some time to get through chart. It's not okay, I'm going to get through this. And a lot of people, a lot of your customers will wait until the last minute and then they're like scrambling. Oh my gosh, it took so long. Well, it doesn't take long if you go through time management, which is another one of the courses. But as a coach, you have got to make a commitment to understand the material and know the time commitment that it takes to complete each course and empathize with your learners as to the amount of time it takes. You know, you didn't go to college for 4 years for nothing, right? So this is a process. We're going to do a course every month or however you work it out. I've always found that it really helps to have a 1-year program and do 1 course a month. Now that there's 13 courses in leadership, that's going to be a little fun challenge. So maybe it's every 4 weeks or whatever. So the second thing that I always do is I create what I call coach's notes. They're my own notes, Jane Zilles' notes. Okay. And so when you're going through the material the first time, it's important to capture your key learnings in that as well. So what I've started doing now with the new platform is I go right into the summary at the end of each course has 5 sections. And at the end of each of those, there is a summary of what was just learned. I just cut and paste that and put it into a Word document. And then I do that at the very beginning. So I go through, I opened up the first course, prospecting and sales, and I cut and paste those summary points into a Word document. Peter, you asked me to share what I'm doing, so this is how it works for me.
Yeah, but that's great.
And then I expand upon that for my own talking points, because these coaches' notes only go to me. And I say that not really only me, and I'll tell you why. The intention is for them to go to me, so I put my name on it because I want it to know that it's mine. So it says my internet connection is unstable. I am sorry if you're seeing that.
No problem.
But then I expand upon the topics as I see necessary, because there's a whole lot more than those 5 or 6 top points that they have in the summary. And I create my coach's notes, which I then use for the application accountability meetings. So, and then the other point is understand how the material might relate to your client's business. The chart material is excellent, but it is generic. Okay, so it's a lot different if you are working with a finance company or a bank versus working with one of my customers is a pressure sensitive coating company. So it's a manufacturing facility versus working with somebody who might be in retail. All of the concepts apply. You may have to change how you're thinking and how they're thinking. And some people can't do that. That's our job, to try and figure out, okay, I have a company I work with that sells socks. So how do I take this material? Well, they're still looking for prospects. They still need to know what their opening benefit offer is, all of that to them. But it's important that you, as a coach, learn as much as you can about their business and then relate the material to their business. Tip number 2, review the application activities. So at the end of each section, there's a quiz and there's application activities. Look at those ahead of time and understand some of them are very long. Some of them are very repetitive. Some of them are not relevant for some clients. It depends on who you're working with. And over the years that I've been doing this, I've done it differently, many different ways. Okay. So, but what I have found is that if you're asking them just to do the application activities that are at the end of it, a lot of it is very elementary. So in other words, what does power mean? Versus how are you applying power prospecting techniques in your territory? So I modify those and customize those as necessary depending on the client. So one of my clients has a 24-year-old sales rep. that has never been through sales training, doesn't know, brilliant college grad, doesn't know the first thing about selling. I'm making him do the application activities exactly as they are at the end of it, because he needs to have some reference to go back to. He wants to do things like this, so that they're doing it just that way. But other clients, you have to be able to modify. And I'm not saying just modify at the beginning. Start asking for feedback, because one of my clients I'm working with right now came back and said, you know what, we'd like to see, can we do something a little bit different, because we're learning from each other. How can we get more interaction amongst each other? So I totally changed up how we're going to do their AAA meetings, I call them, but AA meetings. So anyway, the completed assignment gives you the insight into each individual learner. So I personally have those assignments come back to me, and that could be very overwhelming if you let it be, but I've learned to scan. So you're looking for every single answer on the application activities has somebody that's going to come out with a fabulous answer. And I write down, call on Peter Horwick for this one, and let's call on Les for this one, and let's call on Blondell for this one. So whenever we get there, and now we're all doing everything as Zoom, I can say, Peter, could you please share with us 1.1 on your responses? And then we expand upon that. So it works really great. You don't have to read every single detail that everybody's sending to you, but as they send you those assignments, you start learning about the learner, and you start learning about the individual, and you start learning about the company. And I got to tell you, that getting individualized into the learner, if you grab that as a coach, you're going to be golden, because you then can respond back to them directly, which I have done many times. And it has launched into additional one-on-one coaching opportunities paid for by the client. Okay, tip number 3, be prepared for that AAA or that AA meeting, the AA meeting. And we have fun with that. Oh my goodness, the application accountability meeting, but everybody knows about AA and Alcoholics Anonymous. So we're like, bring your coat, bring your sofa with you when you come, and we're all going to sit down. And I've had a lot of fun with that without not saying anything bad about AA, but it's a time for us all to share. So have the application activities sent to you no later than the night prior to the call. And again, I've got 17 people in a leadership program. So the night before the call, I'm getting up to 17 different documents sent to me. But I also ask them to send them to me as soon as they're done. The reality is I don't read any of them until the night before the call, even if they're coming in early, because I want to be fresh. I want to know exactly what it is. And I don't want to have to do things twice. So I plan my schedule accordingly to the night prior to those AA meetings, that I am reviewing the topic, I'm reviewing the notes, I'm making my notes to ask certain questions, and I go from there. So again, I said this earlier, review those application activities for the best answers or the points that you really want to emphasize coming out of that particular course. Facilitate the call by calling on learners. They don't want to hear you talk. You call on learners, you ask for their input on topics. There may be 2 or 3 that have really good input. So you just say, okay, and what did you think about that one? And how did you handle that one? Or explain to us how the problem that you are trying to overcoming objections. What objection did you have last week, Dana, that you would like to share? Tie together themes from one course to the next, so that the courses do not, they're individual courses, but they build on each other. So you all know the circle of learning is home, help, challenge, and prize. The first 3 courses are home. The second 3 courses are help. The third 3 courses are challenge and prize. But in order to get to the prize, you need to start at the beginning. So I try and tie back all the time. Now, remember, we learned in the prospecting course this, or where did we learn that before? And so I challenge them to try and tie this together into a total sales training course or leadership development course, not just individual courses as they stand. And then most important, as you all know, as a coach, is to listen. And this is one of my favorite sayings out there. Listen with the intent to understand and not with the intent to reply. they're not looking for a response. So you're trying to understand. So ask a question. You're asked a question, ask a question, dig deeper. There, we can all give people the answers, but the goal is to get them to think for themselves. So that goes back to not just chart, but coaching in general, is how can we help people get from point A to point B, or course 1 to course 2. Tip number 4, capturing best practices. So as you're going through this, you're going to come up with ideas, and that everybody's going to share things. So to capture best practices is really like putting like a leaf behind. I'm just going to give a little side note story. There was a time in my life when I actually sold radio advertising. The radio, who listens to the radio anymore? Anyway, radio advertising, and it's like one step above prostitution, I'm sure. So it was just awful. So I always felt like I needed to give the client something, because you're selling air, but I'd always give them that little cassette tape, because has your ad on it. And it was like something that was tangible. So these reference documents, this is your leave behind, because you're going in sales, for instance, you're going through opening benefit offers. You're talking about features and benefits and tying it together with so that. You're talking about their ideal customer. So you've got all these people who are filling out their application activities and telling you all of this, and you can gather all of those together and come up with a best practice document on, we're sharing everybody's across the board. Now, that's not my responsibility to do as the coach. So you need to get your sponsor or the marketing director or the sales manager, whomever, involved in that. You can facilitate gathering it, but then I just send it off and say, you make it look pretty and send me a copy when you're done. And that's become a really cool takeaway after you're finished, after the 12 months is finished. In leadership, you talk about personal mission statements. At the beginning, the very first course talks about mission statements and the importance of a company mission statement. I also ask people to have a personal mission statement for their particular department. And throughout the leadership development program, we review those. Like I think we've reviewed it after 4 months, 8 months, and then at the end to see if it had changed. But you also talk about things like time management, Ohio, only handle it once. TRAF, which is toss it, refer it, act on it, or file it. Again, these things, if you don't know the material, you're not going to know the acronyms. So project management tools, the grow coaching skills. So all of those things can be captured as a takeaway, as a best practice. Tip number 5, let's see, how many do I have? I only have 5. Okay, good. Be approachable and be human. And I think none of you really know me very well, except maybe Blondell and Diane and Henny and Peter maybe. But you know what? We had trouble getting on the screen today and having me get my screen up there. Guess what? I'm human. And so don't be intimidating. It's really important to be able to come across as being very human. You've got experiences that you'd like to share. They have experiences. We are all on the same level. So responding to the individual learners, which I kind of talked about a little earlier, via email with encouragement, thanks, etc. I have to share, I had one client who, let's see, she was the team captain. I made her a team captain, so that's important too. I'll get to that. And she was just like when you put her in a room with everybody else, the air just was sucked out of the room. Do you know that type of personality that's like, how am I going to stay motivated here? Well, come to find out, once we went to Zoom and she starts sending her talking points to me, she starts telling me kind of what's going on in her world. And oh my goodness, she's got a lot going on. I have replied to her, I know I'm the coach for the company, for the course, but this person is sharing something with me. So I am not a therapist, okay? But I am a coach and I do offer encouragement. And so I would say, thank you so much for your answers. I really empathize with what you're going through. I appreciate that. And then I try and give them a go forward on how they can, whatever, deal with any. I try not to get too personal, but sometimes they tell you things and it's great. So that is important as a coach because it really establishes some credibility that you're not just there for the customer, you're there for them as well. And very important to listen. I bring that up again because you can tie together themes. You might hear a theme in a project management course and versus giving productive feedback. And you're going to hear, well, so-and-so did this, or I had this that happened to me, or whatever. And because you're hearing these themes, so make sure you're tying it together so it all comes together in this nice big bundle by the time you're done. And always remember that the people that you're working with, well, in my case anyway, they're all adults. Okay. They've been in business before. They've been working for years. They're business professionals. We're not school teachers, right? We're coaches. And we are supporting their professional growth and professional development. And guess what? Not everybody wants to grow professionally, and that's okay. You're going to know who wants to grow and who doesn't want to grow based on how they complete their work. And that's all right. So that's that. Oh, I have another one. Always be selling. So Peter had said, how do you get from, 1 year to 2 year to 3 years to 4 years? So, always be selling sounds crazy. That goes back to sales. Always be selling another chart program. Hey, we've got a new emotional intelligence program. Just drop those seeds. Just drop it. So choose a course and start. Okay. So when I met with the client, one of my huge clients I'm working with now, initially we went in for sales training. We thought we would start with doing sales. And that's where we need all the help. Well, everybody needs help in sales, just so you know. And we ended up doing leadership development first. So you choose a course and you start. And then this is a fortune I have up here on my wall. And it says, out of a fortune cookie, begin, the rest is easy. Truly, if you begin with one course and you do the things that I've mentioned up to this point, your client is going to be asking you for more. So thanks to COVID, I had this customer that's doing leadership decided to move up by 6 months their sales training, and now they're already talking about doing something on the plant floor. We're talking about doing customer service next year, and it's just like this snowball that just keeps on moving and moving. And the cool thing is, I know their business now, and I know their people, and I have credibility there. So I don't really have to sell. It's just what fits into my timeline and what fits into their timeline and what their ultimate goal is. So stay aware of other opportunities that arise on the floor. For instance, when we're going through this leadership development program right now, I hear a lot of things that are going on the shop floor. And there are team leaders on the shop floor that they've never been given any type of professional development. So that's a whole nother, I can go through the whole portfolio of offerings from Chart and pick and choose which ones are going to be most effective in that environment, and then present that as a bundle to my client. Getting the customers from move to year 1 to 2 to 3, I just explained that. That's, you just start, get going, get a couple months in, and then start talking about, boy, how are your sales doing? How's the business doing? How's your growth going? What areas of opportunity do you see, going forward? How has COVID affected your business? Whatever. It just, I don't know. For me, it just falls into place once you've established that credibility. That's the most important piece. And then I go back to, again, the material itself. Chart Sales Cycle Management Course 12, Building a Referral Network. Talk about what you do with enthusiasm. People say, what do you do? And be ready. And don't just keep talking and talking and talking. But it's an opportunity for you to ask questions about what they do and try and understand, do you know anyone who would be looking to train and to enhance their business with some additional sales training or whatever it may be. And also I really say LinkedIn, because LinkedIn seems to be the business aspect of contacting people, and I've had a lot of individuals contacting me off of LinkedIn to learn more. Beware, there's a whole lot of coaches out there that want to call and learn all about your business and just be a partner with you. I'm not looking for that, right? I have a partner. My partner is Chart, and my business is Z Professional Development, and that's what I'm doing right now. I will see them, I'll talk to them, but I don't share my secrets outside of the network. And let's see, miscellaneous tips. Always stay one course ahead of the client. So know what's coming next. And I always introduce the next course at the end of the first course. So once you finish that one course, you kind of give them an overview of what the next course is going to look like. I typically already have my coach's notes done at that point. So it takes real discipline on your part to get this done, especially the first time you're going through it. You know, the second time you're going through it with a second client, it becomes, it's a little bit easier because you've already got your notes, but I still go through the material and listen to it because you pick up something every time. I will share, and I think Peter and I have shared this in the past, the original client, my customer that I worked for, they are 10 years ago, we launched Chart, and they're still going through it. They were going through, I think, their fourth iteration of sales cycle management right now. So the material doesn't get old. You can just perfect it. Also, I mentioned recruiting a team captain. So instead of communicating to those 17 people or those 20 people, I broke it down into smaller teams. That's just how it really works for me, because then you really get to know people. And I recruited team captains. They had to be self-appointed, or actually the team chose a team captain. So when I'm communicating to anyone, I'm only communicating to the team captains, except for the one-offs that I was saying earlier when I get an application activity where I may just, say, thanks for sending that. That's an interesting story. But the team captains, I send them any communication that needs to be done, and it's up to them to disseminate that. They also schedule the Zoom calls. So that's their responsibility to get it set up and include me on that invitation. And lastly, stay in contact with your project sponsor. The project sponsor is the person who hired you, who's writing the checks. They want to know what's going on. I would say every month I talk with my project sponsor for all of my clients, and just say, hey, just want to get your feedback, give you my feedback. But on one of my largest clients, even the president of the company wants to meet with me, and it's always offsite because the confidentiality of some of the material is important. And you want to be able to have some conversations with them that are very open. And so in some cases, you've got a whole lot of leaders in the leadership program. And now that we're in the 10th month, we have 12 months, and we're 10 courses into it. You're seeing leaders rise, and you're seeing leaders stay here, and you're seeing leaders fall. And that's important information to share back with your sponsor. So make sure you're staying in touch with them, because, by the way, they're the one who are going to write the check for the next class as well.